Since the dawn of human history, people have been obsessed with speed, height, and danger, constantly pushing the limits of what the human body can endure. From athletes breaking Olympic records to daredevils attempting feats that would make most of us shudder, there's an undeniable allure in chasing the extreme. And one of the deadliest records ever set, which still stands unchallenged today, is the high dive world record from 1983. This event remains unparalleled not only for the height from which the divers jumped, but also for the deadly risks they faced, with some paying the ultimate price: a deadly challenge. The year was 1983, and 6 brave divers were about to compete for the high dive world record. These divers were preparing to leap from a shaky platform 172 feet above the deck, equivalent to jumping off a 17-story building. As if the height alone wasn't terrifying enough, the divers had to contend with cold, near-freezing water, which they would hit at speeds of 70 miles per hour. The acceleration they would experience as they hurtled toward the water would be faster than that of a Formula One car. High diving in the early 1980s had an almost irresistible combination of risk and danger, coupled with a strange sense of spectacle. The event gripped the world, becoming one of the most watched sporting events of the time. In fact, it was second only to major broadcasts like the Super Bowl and the World Series. For these 6 divers, this competition wasn't just about setting a record, it was about survival. While some would walk away as legends, others would leave with life-altering injuries, or worse. The brutality of high diving. To fully understand why this record has stood unchallenged for so long, you need to understand what it takes to execute such a dive. Official rules for high diving set by the Aquatics Association are complicated, but the core of the sport boils down to 3 fundamental principles, known as the classic rules. Rule number 1. The dive must include a 180-degree vertical turn. This rule dictates that at some point during the dive, the diver's head must be closer to the water than their feet. Essentially, the dive must be more than just a jump. It has to include a full vertical rotation, ensuring the diver is in a head-first position at least once during the descent. Rule number 2. The diver must leave the pool unassisted. After completing the dive, the competitor must leave the water on their own. If help is needed to exit the pool, the dive is disqualified. This rule adds an element of physical endurance to the already dangerous stunt, because if a diver can't leave the water unassisted, it's a clear sign that they've sustained an injury, which is common in this sport. Rule number 3. No protective equipment. The classic rules of high diving ban the use of any protective equipment. No helmets, no wetsuits, and no cushion landing devices. Divers perform the jump wearing only a pair of Speedos, with perhaps some tape wrapped around their knees for good luck. With these rules in place, it's no wonder that diving from 172 feet, armed with nothing but a swimsuit, is considered borderline suicidal. The water at that speed isn't forgiving. It's closer to hitting concrete than taking a leisurely dip. Yet, despite the dangers, divers in 1983 continued to leap from heights no one had attempted before. Why this record remains unbroken? It's been over 40 years since that fateful day in 1983, and despite the advances in technology and safety equipment, no one has come close to breaking this record. It's not from lack of trying either. Over the decades, a few brave souls have taken the leap, only to be met with catastrophic injuries. Broken backs, shattered legs, and torn ligaments are the reward for anyone daring enough to try to break this record. For many, the risk simply outweighs the reward. A diver named Randy Dickinson came closest to breaking the record just 2 years later in 1985. Dickinson completed a 174-foot dive, sticking the landing but not without cost. He shattered his femur upon impact and was unable to leave the pool unassisted. Not only did he miss out on the record, but he spent the next 9 months in a wheelchair. Similarly, in 1987, another brave diver, Olivier Favre, attempted a double-back somersault from 177 feet. His landing was less than perfect, and he ended up with a broken back, requiring safety divers to pull him out of the water. The controversial Guinness World Record. While the 1983 high dive remains the most dangerous and respected in the sport, not everyone adheres to the classic rules. In 2015, a diver named Lazaro Schaller set a new Guinness World Record for the highest jump, leaping from a staggering 192 feet. However, Schaller's jump did not follow the traditional guidelines, making it controversial in the eyes of purists. Schaller performed his jump without a single rotation and was kitted out in protective gear from head to toe. He had to be carried out of the water after sustaining torn ligaments during the impact. While the Guinness World Records officially recognized Schaller's attempt, many, including former record holder Dana Kunz, argued that it was a cliff jump, not a high dive. Kunz, who has set the record previously, claimed that Schaller's jump violated the spirit of the sport, the classic rules of his modern attempts. Watching Lazaro Schaller's jump raises the question of whether it's even possible to break the 1983 high dive record while adhering to the classic rules. During the 1982 high dive challenge, 5 divers attempted to set the record at 170 feet, and every single one sustained an injury. Remarkably, the event organizers decided to raise the platform by 2 feet for the 1983 competition, pushing the boundaries of what's humanly possible. The 1983 event began with a series of solid jumps from the first 4 divers, each setting new records. Then came Dana Kunz, a 22-year-old prodigy who had been hailed as one of the greatest divers in the sport. Kunz's jump was nothing short of magnificent, executed with a level of precision that set him miles ahead of the competition. His score all but guaranteed his win. However, the final diver of the day decided to take a leap in an attempt to tie the record. As he jumped from the platform, things went wrong almost immediately. He lost control mid-air and hit the water at a dangerous angle, knocking himself unconscious on impact. In a terrifying moment, he was left floating face down in the water. It took several agonizing seconds before the female competitors jumped into the pool to save him, as no official lifeguards had been stationed. Will the record ever be broken? Will we ever see someone break the 1983 high dive record? Honestly, it seems unlikely. The risks are simply too high, and very few people have the skill, mental fortitude, and physical ability to attempt such a feat. Even the women's high dive record, set at 120 feet by Lucy Wardle in the 1980s, has remained untouched for nearly 4 decades. In an era where technology and sports have evolved drastically, the 1983 high dive stands as a testament to human endurance and recklessness. These divers didn't have access to the protective gear or safety measures that modern athletes enjoy. They pushed the limits with nothing but their raw talent and sheer willpower. One thing is clear, the divers of the 1980s were tough as nails, and their achievements will forever be etched in the annals of high diving history. That's all for today's video. If you enjoyed this video into one of the deadliest records in history, make sure to like this video and share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an exciting story from the world of extreme sports and incredible feats.